bit of a weird episode this, as two games have come up together where there's very little to talk about. They're both Japanese exclusive due to how little appeal either of them would have had outside of Japan. There's also very little actual content to discuss on either of them, but for slightly different reasons. However, when you're dealing with a Japanese console, they're both basically mandatory to have somewhere in the library. The Game Boy family, for example, had multiple examples of each of these, and I struggled to review them as well. First off, Neo Derby Championship is, as you might guess from the cover art or the word derby in the title, a horse racing simulator. I counted something like 16 of these in the first Game Boy library, but thankfully this is the only one in the Neo Geo Pocket, so we can be grateful for that at least. Essentially what this is a tool to help hapless gamblers with little to no actual nous themselves pick what horses to bet on. What you do here is input your actual race statistics from the actual real world, scary, and the ingenious AI will pick winners for you by simulating the race. I can just imagine some down-on-his-luck guy in some seedy back alley bookies furiously typing in horse data and track conditions into his Neo Geo before the next race starts, then losing it all anyway when it materializes that a 25-year-old console isn't actually much of a fortune teller. It sounds like the opening to an anime or something. Speaking of fortune tellers, you're actually also able to predict how your own luck is holding today by inputting a bunch of personal data like your date of birth and blood type. Yeah, just a daft little program this is. It all looks nice enough, and I'm sure some passionates got a kick out of it back in the day, but I can't, in good conscience, advise actually putting money onto any of the outcomes you get here. Please don't do that. Mahjong Anywhere suggests a portable version of Mahjong. Well, that's correct. It certainly is Mahjong, and it certainly is portable, being on a handheld. So, as you might expect, there's very little editorializing I can provide that adds anything to this one. If you like Mahjong and want to play it on your Neo Geo Pocket Color instead of one of the 100 Game Boy versions, this is one way to do it. Although there's a much better looking version to come later on called Super Real Mahjong Premium Collection, although I understand if you don't want eroge content in with your tile game. Failing that, the mid-library title Koi Koi Mahjong is actually better looking than this too. Doko Demo Mahjong is strangely quite ugly, with what should really be quite a simple game to make look nice. You don't have to provide that much artistic flair, but here it's quite cramped and compact, which could lead you to struggle a bit if you don't really recognize the number characters. Otherwise, there's little else really wrong here, something common to basically every Mahjong game I've played. I suppose it's quite a simple rule set to code in, and unless you want to add in some silly fluffery like the Game Boy Color's Mahjong Quest tried to do, there's very little scope to muck this up. All your normal rule modifiers are present, there are a lot of characters to choose from if that's important to you for some reason, plus this one's backwards compatible with the monochrome Neo Geo, whereas the other two aren't. 3 Mahjong titles in a library only 70-something deep is a little excessive perhaps, but then we haven't come to the patchy slot ones yet.